So, ladies and gentlemen, so we are very excited to have you here today. And first, I would like Thierry Frémaux to say a few words before introducing Ted Sarandos. Thierry Frémaux, please.
James Fonda. Bonjour, je vais le dire. Tu viens, alors comme ça. Je vais le faire en français. It's like the French Republic. Like when we are in France, we speak in French. D'abord, bienvenue à tous ici qui êtes des professionnels que je ne vois pas toujours parce que nous sommes dans les salles de cinéma et vous travaillez. Bienvenue parce que vous êtes aussi le Festival de Cannes.
Welcome to all the members of industry because you are, of course, part of the festival.
On est très heureux d'accueillir Ted Sarandos parce qu'il incarne quelque chose de l'avenir de la production des images, des films, des auteurs, de la télévision et du cinéma.
We are very proud to welcome today Ted Sarandos because it embodies the future of a certain idea of television.
Et que ici au Festival de Cannes, et en particulier avec Jérôme Paillard et le marché du film, évidemment, nous voulons réfléchir à la manière dont les nouveaux moyens de production puissent aussi profiter au cinéma en salle.
And it's very important, of course, for us in the market to think about the way that the films are going to be seen in theaters and in television.
Que l'arrivée de Netflix aux États-Unis et maintenant en France est un bouleversement considérable dans nos pratiques culturelles.
The arrival of Netflix in France and the US is a big change in the practice and the way that we are actually consummating culture.
Et c'est un grand honneur d'avoir Ted Sarandos qui représente Netflix, mais dont le travail lui-même et la personnalité de cinéphile montrent bien que les résultats de Netflix ne sont pas dus au hasard, mais dus à une stratégie et dus à des convictions qui sont celles du monde de 2015.
And it's a big privilege for us to have Ted Sarandos because he's of course a cinephile and of course very important of the way that the cinema will evolve in the future.
Il m'a dit que la chose la plus importante de sa journée, à part d'être ici devant vous, c'était de voir la copie restaurée de Lady from Shanghai.
He told us just before that the most important part of the day for him, of course, after this keynote, is to discover the new digitalized version of the Lady from Shanghai.
Et tout à l'heure, quand il y aura les questions du public, merci de lui demander beaucoup si Netflix a l'intention de continuer aussi à aider la production de films pour le cinéma.
And of course, after the keynote, during the Q&A, it will be important to ask him whether he wants to support the production for films for the theaters.
Il est temps maintenant d'accueillir le patron des acquisitions et de la production chez Netflix, Ted Sarandos.
You will need it.
You're supposed to end with a microphone.
Thank you, Ted, for being with us today. We're here to discuss about your involvement and the involvement in Netflix in the films and the way you finance them. But first of all, why did you choose to invest in original production, original movies?
So about a third of all the watching on Netflix by hours are movies. So about 2/3 of the watching are TV series. Now when we started Netflix as a DVD by post business many years ago, it was 90% movies, 10% TV shows. And in that evolution, I think that there's many ways you could figure out how that came to be. One is we're certainly living in a new golden age of television where television has never been better. TV shows are being made by the best film talent, starring legendary, often film talent. And so there's been an interesting migration of consumers of some of the time and interest and attention that they used to spend on movies, they now spend on watching television shows, serialized television shows. So you could look at that as just a blurring the lines between movies and television, or you could look at it that movies are being displaced in the culture a little bit by television. And I think that there's a real separate art to making films. The story compression, to be telling a story in 2 hours versus 13 hours or 26 or more hours. And it's an art that people love. And we're trying to figure out ways to make it more and more relevant to our subscribers. The problem with our current movies on Netflix is that they have to wait so long after the cinema. And there's 300 movies a year get released in France, and there's just not enough weekends or screens to support them all. And after you wait a year, it's just too long. And we live in an age where the internet has attuned us to want things whenever we want, wherever we want, and movies have been uniquely immune from that. So we're trying to kind of bring movies along with that.
You said in 2013 that in 2014, 10% of your global budget for content would be dedicated to original production. Have you reached that goal? Are you surpassed it?
Surpassed it, and I think it's not really the goal. I was just trying to illustrate that it was at the time that it was a relatively small portion of our total spending. We're trying to put content dollars, programming dollars, to things that people find relevant. And people have found our original programming to be incredibly relevant to them. So in success, that number could grow 2, 3, 4 times. We're not trying to constrain it by a percent of budget. But we look at it as trying to pick the right programming dollars for the right, to put things in front of people that they love and watch and value. And so in success, that number could grow to be 50, 60% over time. Who knows?
Yeah, the press announced a few weeks ago, months ago, that you would spend in 2 years $5 billion for content. Is it a figure you confirm?
Oh, there's a spreadsheet that can get you to $5 billion, sure. And we hope it's much bigger because it's all driven on subscription revenues that drive programming dollars.
Yeah, but so you're spending production, and how many of this budget do you intend to spend in original production?
Like I said, there's no target number. So in real success, that number could be half over time. I don't think in that short a time frame because the development process for the projects are long. Yeah. We don't try to rush these projects to market. So sometimes a series might have a 18-month development cycle before you'd see the first episode from the deal point. So in movies, often about a year. So.
You also said a few weeks ago that $1 invested in an original show is more effective than $1 spent in licensed content. Could you explain why you said that?
So that is a little bit of Silicon Valley ease around using the word efficiency in art is not always natural. But in this case, we're saying is that if
let's go back to art.
Exactly, not in France, right? But if you were to take $1 invested into any other programming, usually prior to doing original programming, we're licensing series from other networks and older movies, and an hour viewed against the $1 spent. We get more hours viewed on the $1 spent on our original programming than we do on our non-original programming, and that was a nice surprise. Honestly, we had not forecasted. We had forecasted that our original programming, would be at a premium to $1 spent to viewing hours because they're fully exclusive and because we're creating new brands and all those things. And the brands, luckily, have been successful not just with our North American customers, but with our global customers. Our Grace and Frankie that just launched last week has been an enormous success everywhere in the world. So it's been great to see that the shows, these stories, really great storytelling, can travel and be very, very global. So a lot of people are scratching their head to think, what does global programming look like? What does a global TV show look like? Well, it looks like Grace and Frankie. It looks like House of Cards, which is, according to CNN, the most popular television show in China is House of Cards. So there's not a lot of mystery involved here, right? It's great, great storytelling.
How many original movies do you have in production right now? And how many of them do you plan to produce in the next couple of years?
We'll have 3 this year. and a few next, and we'll be gearing up for more. I would look at our movie ambitions to be, other than our original productions and licensing older library films, there's these pay TV deals, right? That's where we mostly compete with HBO in the U.S., Canal Plus, and here with all these different, for those pay TV output deals. And like I said at the beginning of this, the problem with those deals is they're rather expensive, and then the movies are old, and you're doing them country by country by country for a product that really has great global appeal. So it would cost roughly $1 billion for a U.S. TV output deal with a studio, which is 3 to 5 years, depending on how the movies come out and how they do in the box office. So for that same $1 billion, I think that we could invest in a slate of original films that would be competitive in terms of A-list directors, A-list stars, big production value films that we would have for the entire world, and not have to wait the kind of 10 to 12 months and hold my breath and hope the studios marketed it well and all those things. So it's really a shifting away from that pay TV deal to more of for an original slate. So right now, like I said, we have 4 to 5 projects that are in various states of production, and we think we'll do many more than that.
All of them Americans?
On the film side, we have so we have they're not all production. Not by design. Right? That's just where we know everybody right now. So we're working on doing some more broadly. And in our TV series side, we're doing a Spanish language series in Mexico called Club de Cuervos, and we're in pre-production now for a French language series in France, obviously called Marseille.
What is your philosophy when you're picking up a project? And do you pursue a kind of editorial line where you draw the line between some projects and others that might not fit into your lineup?
Well, there's no particular. If you look at the kind of mix of films that are in that first lineup, everything from Beast of No Nation that Cary Fukunaga directed with Idris Elba to Ridiculous Six, Adam Sandler's next movie. There's a big range of what we're doing. It's because we have 63 million people with 63 million different tastes. So we're trying to have programming that's relevant to a lot of people, and the best way to do that is to have a lot of variety. So we're not looking for a certain sensibility of project. We're looking for projects that certain segments of the population will love.
When you finance a movie, what's your financial model for production? Do you finance everything? Do you keep every right?
Yeah, so there. The finance model, so let me take it up a little bit on kind of the distribution models as they exist today. For kind of a medium budget film, even say a $10 to $12 million film or even below, those movies have a very difficult time ever seeing profit. By the time they're released in cinema, the theater owners take cuts, the distribution fees, advertising. Those movies have got to do so much box office revenue to ever see a profit that they're, that for the most part they're looking at a losing proposition. And God help you if you're an Oscar contender, because the awards budget then comes against is then recouped against the film as well. So our model is meant to say, instead of taking this kind of lottery ticket, approach to films, all the films that we do on Netflix are going to be profitable for the producer. So we buy the films at a premium to the budget. So there's no chance that an investor to a film who does a deal with Netflix is going to lose money. And I think that's unique to Netflix. Plus in that we can give them a global audience of today, 63 million, and certainly a growing customers, so that people will see their film, they will make money on their film, and more importantly, it will be a film that will be important in the culture. It'll be, when people say, I want my movies on the screen, I want my movies on this, really what they're saying, I think, is that they want the movies in the culture. So in our first couple of movies, our original documentaries, as an example, The Square and Virunga, 2 years in a row, our original documentary films that have been Oscar nominees. Virunga will win the Peabody Award. The Square, on top of being nominated for an Oscar, was also nominated for 4 Emmy Awards and won 3 of them. So these films are in the culture, and you want to take that to one step further, because the number of people around the world who saw Virunga, the fate of the last 800 mountain gorillas in the world is changed. It's improved. So these movies are actually making a big difference in the culture. They're making profit. They're winning awards, and they're reaching audiences, which is, I think, the goal of all these movies. So our model is to say, bring us your film. We'll pay you a percentage, a premium to the budget, and we'll get you all those, all the things that you've got into making movies for. And that it's a very big departure of people who invest hoping that it's going to be Avatar and it's going to be Titanic, but there's only a few of them. And it could be that for a while that it would be difficult for us to compete for those projects because of if it's in that caliber of film, it may require that that big push, the $60–70 million ad budget. But for now, I think everything below that we could be in play for.
You said that there is a kind of premium line for the budget when you're committing to a film. Is there some kind of back-end incentive for producers and talents if the film is even more successful than you thought?
Well, we try to compensate based on what we think the back end would be through other models. So we're not going to release the film on DVD as an example. There's some percentage of revenue that would have come from the DVD. What's different is because we're not recouping any advertising fee, any advertising and marketing. That money usually wouldn't ever flow through anyway. So I know that these are not popular sentiments, but they are just reality. So when I look at that and say, yes, if that movie would have turned profit, and you would have recouped all the marketing, and we would recoup our distribution fee, then you get a percentage of the DVD. What we're going to say is that we'll give you that, that money now, and we're not going to recoup all those dollars. So it's a discounted amount for sure, but it's guaranteed. So there's no back end because there is no incremental revenue that it would derive.
But how could you judge the success of a movie? By ratings, by the number of subscribers you get with the marketing around the movie?
Yeah, I think all of our original programming dollars, movies and series alike, we judge them around watching. So relative to the cost of people watching, we're not immune from those kind of economics. We do want every dollar we spend should be relevant to our customers because we have to give them programming that's worth subscribing to Netflix for. So if we spend a lot and nobody watches, we could have spent that money on something other people would have watched, and that would have been a mistake as well. We don't watch it obsessively for opening weekend. We don't watch it obsessively for on the premiere date because the economics are such that in the life of the license, you want to be able to drive a big audience. So that way we don't steer ourselves to make things that would be just titillating for opening weekend. We want things that people are going to really love and cherish over the long shelf life of a film or a TV series. So the watching metrics are very important, but also the things that bring halo effects to the subscription. This was important to me. I could only see it on Netflix, so we value the exclusivity of that. Our programming, our original series have been nominated for 45 Emmy Awards, won 10, 10 Golden Globe nominations, have won 2. 2 Oscar nominations. So I think all of those, when people look at these, they say, oh, that's, that becomes shorthand for things I want to see. So the awards recognition, the kind of positive reviews in the marketplace, all those things. So it's kind of a three-legged stool. Then we hope to have, the positive brand halo watching relative to what else you would have spent the money on, and the exclusivity and those things, those other attributes that help the brand.
And going back to talents, how do you work with producers, directors, screenwriters? Are you here every step of the way, or do you grant some kind of artistic freedom? And you trust them at the very beginning?
Yeah, well, some of the projects we buy fully finished at festival and everything, so those films are complete. The projects that we're doing from the script stage, like we have with our series, we allow incredible artistic freedom and expression. We try to kind of guide with a light touch. Sometimes we can be helpful, and my goal with my team, both on the series side and on the film side, is that the collaboration should always be invited. So, in other words, we're not looking to impose our view on the filmmaker. We hire a storyteller because we love the story and we love their ability to tell it. And while my team is very gifted, that isn't the gift that I hired them for. We hired them to find great projects and work. And if we pick the right projects, the rest plays out very well. And I think that has served us very well so far.
What is light touch in Hollywood language? A
gentle hand, a light touch. Mostly, people will always have a view, right? There's no right or wrong at that stage. So it works better if you move this character up a little bit in the story or resolve that story a little later in the story.
I'm not saying it's better in Europe, but it's
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah. And it's just basically, and we are an input to the filmmaker. We mostly allow, at the end of the day, they'll break the tie if there's, if we have two conflicting views on a piece of creative. Okay.
When you work with the talents, do you use your big data to make the scenario, the script, the movie fit to your audience?
So we have a lot of viewing data all from around the world on movies and TV shows, which helps us to kind of narrow the field of what kind of things we're looking for, what are things that are very popular genres that we don't have enough programming for. We try to use the data to establish how big the market can be for a film or a series, but not to reverse engineer what it looks like. So the example of this, I think, where it has worked well in movies, has been the data that drove us to working with Adam Sandler for his output of films. For 20 years, Adam Sandler has released a movie every year, and those 20 films in every country, in every window that we license, always do well. We do one of Adam's movies anywhere in the world. That week it comes on, it's people love him. They love this. It's enough. I should say enough people love him that those work out very well for us. So that's why we did a 4-picture deal with Adam to make his next 4 movies at Netflix. He's more global than anyone would have anticipated. So that would have been the advantage of data, right? That we knew that, and it's kind of unintuitive because most people believe American comedy doesn't travel very well. And we've seen is that American comedy does travel really well, and Adam Sandler particularly travels very well. And that's what led us down that path. Most of the things that we do are data-driven hunches. So there are hunches that could be or couldn't be, which lead you into the data to research and find that. But if you didn't have the intuition to know what to look for, you wouldn't have found it either anyway.
And going back to Adam Sandler, you signed this output deal with him. What kind, and I'm trying this one, I don't know if you're going to answer it, what kind of money you invested per film, I would say, regarding this film? And there is the other very big project, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Tiger, too. So what kind of budgets are we talking about?
These are all theatrical size budgets. So these are the films that they're big in range, from sub 10 million to more than 50.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you estimate the budget you're ready to spend on the movie? Do you use your data audience to estimate the budget you're ready to spend? How do you estimate it?
Yeah, we tried to figure out from the data, like how, again, the size of the audience to get to a number of hours. We think that the number would, that the film would be viewed.
Yeah.
That would drive us into a neighborhood of how much you would spend or how much you wouldn't spend.
Do you have a kind of ratio, for example?
Kind of, but I wouldn't. That's kind of the secret sauce. So
I tried.
You try.
Getting back to secrecy, you've been rather reticent to share ratings with series or film. Is it a policy that you want to pursue, or it's going to change in the future?
So the reason we don't share the ratings is that the ratings are not on Netflix are so different than the ratings on television, in that there is no urgency or pressure that the show has to work Wednesday night at 8 o'clock on Netflix, right? But every other show that the ratings get tracked, that time slot is incredibly important. It's because it's very precious. Most of the ad dollars are sold in those prime time slots. So of course there's a big reason why the networks have to report their ratings. They're beholden to advertisers that if you buy 1 million impressions, that you get 1 million impressions. We don't sell advertising. So there's no reason for us to be running our apples and oranges numbers against one another, so that people will perceive this one's a success and this one's a failure depending on how they did Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. When for me, it's infinitely valuable for it to be watched eventually, not Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. That's probably the least watched and the least watched, the least monitored time would be that kind of first hour out of the gate. So that's why we don't do it. I also think the rating system itself on television has been very bad for the quality of television. Tracking these numbers has led people to be increasingly risk-averse. It forces people to yank things off the schedule because they didn't work on their first week out. 2 or 3 weeks is sometimes, many shows have I think television has a 75–80% failure rate of new series. The average one used to get canceled in 3 to 4 weeks. That's getting a little bit longer now. But I think it's that push, to win the time slot that has pushed us to make increasingly popular, but not increasingly better programming. And that's why I want to avoid that race. I want to really focus on making the best quality programming, and then the high ratings would be the result of that, not the other way around.
I understand your reasoning regarding the networks, traditional networks, but for example, HBO or your premium competitors do release some kind of figures on a week basis, on 1 month basis.
I know they should have never done that.
Why?
I think they only did it because they had a success and they wanted to share it.
Yeah.
So The Sopranos was a big success, and they said, we're going to tell you how many people watched it because we're very proud of it. I'm incredibly proud of the viewing numbers on Netflix. And I'm very tempted to tell you right now what they are.
Go on.
It's a place of temptation,
But what I don't want to do is
You're far from home. Go on.
What I don't want to... No, it's just us, right? What I don't want to do is start that arms race against ourselves to say what is going to be successful, what's not going to be successful. Because I would argue that many of the shows with very low ratings on HBO have been very important to HBO. And yet people can perceive them as failures.
But do you share it with producers?
No.
No.
I think it's not that I don't trust them. I just think if we try to keep the information internal, mostly because I think everything leaks between agents and producers and managers, and
they try to improve themselves for the next.
Exactly, and you look at our lineup of shows. Every one of our shows have gone on to second seasons. All of them have gone on to third seasons so far. So you look at that and say that we wouldn't be renewing shows that weren't getting watched. We'd be out of business very soon if we were doing that.
Getting back to content, there's a lot of producers here. What kind of content, and especially movies, are you looking for? Are you going more to a kind of indie-style film, or more to traditional studio-type films?
Well, on the film side, we're looking. It's a broad slate, and you can see, like I said, in the range of things that we're already doing, that we're looking for both. I think that
you might have a kind of evolution.
I wouldn't define it as as an indie initiative, but I hope that we'll do a lot of indie films. And between our global original films that we're doing, we also have a global indies team that is licensing films in various windows. Following a theatrical release, as an example. Our global indies will premiere on Netflix, may have a simultaneous theatrical, but premiere on Netflix the same day. And then we have other deals for smaller films to run after various theatrical windows as well.
You've signed comedies with Adam Sandler. Is it the genre your audience prefer?
Sorry, would you repeat that?
You signed a deal with Adam Sandler for comedies. Is it the main genre that your audience love? Is it comedies? Is it the preferred genre for your audience?
Oh, no. That just happens to be one that works really well. So, but that would be true of many other genres as well. But that particular one is one where the most important asset of an Adam Sandler movie is Adam Sandler. So it's his own. It's kind of in a genre of himself. He's his own brand. He's his own intellectual property.
You talked about documentary before. That you've signed a lot of them in the future. Why are you interested in the documentaries, and why are you? It's important for your customer portfolio to have these documentaries on offer.
First, and I try not to do things just because I love them, but I am a huge fan of documentaries. As a fan, also have been incredibly frustrated by how under-distributed documentaries can be. I grew up in a middle market in Phoenix, Arizona, in the United States, that there was no place to see a documentary if you wanted to. You'd have to. There was a art house theater near the university that you'd have to take a bus to get over to if you wanted to see a documentary that showed for one weekend at that theater. And you would read about them. You knew these films existed. You'd see them on the Academy Awards. You knew that they actually existed, but you really had no opportunity to see them.
As all Americans, you didn't like public transport.
That's exactly right. It didn't sound so terrible when you said it. That's right. But there's been historically these great films have been and not just great, sometimes great entertainment, but also culturally very important films that have made huge social changes in the world. So we thought that with our platform we could actually influence that and give these films more reach and more eyeballs. And through an early initiative of ours, so this goes back to our DVD days. where we would acquire documentary films and release them on Netflix on DVD, just in the U.S. And we did that to some great success. Born into Brothels was one of those movies we bought right out of Sundance before it won the Academy Award. We had a little initiative called Red Envelope Entertainment where we did a lot of documentaries. So we've maintained a real passion for documentaries and have built a large audience of people who expect Netflix to have great feature documentaries. So to that end, we've done about a dozen big feature documentaries. Like I mentioned, Virunga and The Square, both Oscar nominees. This year, later on this month, we'll be releasing a documentary called What Happened, Miss Simone, about the life of Nina Simone. It opened the Sundance Film Festival, it opened the Berlin Film Festival, and it's getting ready to premiere on Netflix. We think it is a fantastic film, and it's interesting too, a movie like that probably could never be made if it was meant to make a profit in and of itself. If that film had to go out and to play theaters and sell DVDs, you could never recover what that film cost to make because the music rights are too expensive. But it is a wonderful piece of art, and it is also a film that will tell a really relevant story of the role that Nina Simone played, not just in her musical history, but also in her history with the civil rights movement. That's a real piece of world history and important to share. So I think this is a nice windfall of the business, which is that on a standalone P&L basis, you go out and raise the money to make a movie like that, you are guaranteed to lose. And here you go, have a big audience, you'll be culturally relevant, and it will be great. So.
A very simple question. I am a producer, I want to submit you a script.
Now?
Not now, later, we'll see later.
Perfect.
Half of the audience.
All those people.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. We'll give you your email. But how does it work? How can I submit a script? Because I guess you're the most wanted guy
we
in the world right now.
It's not just me. We've got lots of folks. A couple of them here. But I'll be careful not to point them out explicitly. I'll just point generally like this. So, believe it or not, the old system works pretty well for submissions. So we work through the agencies a lot. It's a great filter for us of, the good ones know what we're looking for and can get them to us. But we're also very present at film festivals around the world, and we usually participate in the pitch sessions that they do. We work with Film Independent in Los Angeles, with the IFP in New York. And we work with similar organizations around the world to inbound these projects. But they come to us in all kinds of unlikely ways. But the most efficient one, I think, is actually working through the agencies.
We understood the way that you're producing films and attracting talents. But do you understand sometimes the kind of reluctancy that some producers have to release a film online only?
I do, but I think it's mostly generational. Like I said, I think that for a certain generation of filmmaker, you grew up with a vision, and the story was written in your head to be played on a big screen in a dark room with strangers, and that's what you want. And I think at the end of the day, it's not about expectations. It's really about execution. It's about how people will see and experience your film. And what I really want. So when you say Netflix only, it's really on us to make movies that are so great that theater owners will also book them even though they're on Netflix. Because I think the experience, when you talk about experience in movies, some of it is the experience of sitting in a theater with people you don't know. Some of it is the experience of just being able to see it. And it depends on what you want to do. So on Friday night, if you want to go out on a date with your wife or your girlfriend, nothing on Netflix competes with that, right? Because you're getting out, that's what you're doing. If you don't want to put your shoes on, nothing in the cinema competes with the worst thing on Netflix. So it's about convenience. But it's also about the quality of the programming. So, and I think what I would like to do is be able to give consumers choice. That's a great film. We're going to go see it tonight, and the seats are going to shake, and it's going to be 5 stories tall, and we're going to have a great night out. Or I'm going to sit there in the intimacy of our comfortable living room. I'm going to stream it in 4K on Netflix, and I'm going to have as beautiful experience as I would have if I'd gone out.
Mm-hmm. You've announced a deal. You will release a movie in an IMAX theater. Why is this choice of day and date, and will you go on with a strategy later for other movies?
So I think the choice of doing something on IMAX was with IMAX on Crouching Tiger was we wanted consumers to know that these were not TV movies. The movies that we're doing are not TV movies. They're not small budget. They're not small in scope. They're large films that you would see in the theater. So it was good shorthand to say, no, it's not just a movie. It's a big movie. It's a big movie. Look at the size of the screen you're looking at on. So for us, that's the kind of why we released that way. I would like to have as much choice and variety as possible in that first exhibition window. But they'll all have various release strategies. So the Adam Sandler film will be in Netflix only.
Yeah. You're not yet present worldwide, at least in the...
Getting there.
Yeah, yet. Do you intend to sell the films that you're producing? Do you intend to sell the rights of them till you're actually a presence in a market, or do you want to hold the rights up to the time you'll be
So we've
ready?
announced publicly we're planning to be global, fully global by the end of 2016.
Yeah.
So the projects that are in production now will be delivering at a time when we will be in all of those other markets. So we're not selling off those markets.
Mm.
Could you produce local content for a local audience?
We are currently on the series side, and we definitely will do this in the movie side. I think what's really important is
When?
Soon. What's great about it, I think, though, is that you think about it. It's not the focus on local. One of the interesting learns have been, as we've been more and more international, in most places in the world, local content is about 10 to 15, maybe even 20%, but nowhere bigger than that of the total viewing. I think people like mostly the same things around the world, not because they're homogenized, but because it's production value that's attractive, right? So they look for things from the big markets because you can afford to produce on a bigger scale for the big markets. But local programming is very important. That's why I mentioned we're filming local series in Mexico, local series in France. We'll do it in most of our major markets. We'll produce original programming for eventually, both films and television. And I think that's probably more important for us to do things like that than to license off-net programming from local television, which seems to be fine. The distribution of that programming seems to be fine. So, like, if we go into Brazil and we probably wouldn't want to license a novella that 80% of the country watched on television. For doing that, it would be much better for us to produce original content in Portuguese for Brazil, which we intend to do.
You've recently signed a deal with the Weinstein Company. Can you explain us why? And are you going to do other kind of these deals with other companies in the future?
So we do a lot of business with the Weinsteins across the board. From we have their theatrical output deal in the U.S. That's starting this year. They also produce Marco Polo for us, which has been a great success around the world for Netflix. And I don't know which ones you were talking about, but we've done, and they're working with us on Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon as well.
Yeah, this one.
So I think Harvey is a friend, but he's also a genius, and you don't need me sitting here to tell you how great he is.
He's just here.
Oh, I didn't even see him there. I didn't even see him there.
Just wanted to tell you he was here.
So I didn't even see you. I had this going on. But we've like I said, he's the only one I think we work with in every corner of our business. Yeah. And it's because it brings a lot to the table creatively and on the business side, and I'm sure we'll do a lot more.
What's the budget for a release for a TV show and in the future a movie, an original movie? What's your marketing budget for a release?
So you should think of the way we market these shows, and the way we launched here in France. You saw our marketing of Marvel, yeah. Daredevil. So you get a sense of what our marketing of original programming is like. It's a very large-scale marketing because it's not just selling the show; it's also selling Netflix. So the marketing budget is the budget that we use to market our service. So nearly all of the marketing dollars spent by Netflix are marketing the programs themselves. So they really vary in range, and they're allocated as part of the Netflix selling budget.
For example, for Daredevil, can you tell us?
I can't, but it was big.
Thank you.
But I mean, on par with a major film, with a major theatrical film.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. But again, that's a launch of a new show that everybody knows the brand, right? You know, Marvel had its own IP, has its own audience going into it. When we launch a brand new series, it's very difficult to spend a lot of money to draw attention to a season 1 of a new series. Where in season 2, you've got millions of fans that are ready for season 2 and very excited for season 2. So we do kind of the reverse of a theatrical. That season 2 and season 3's marketing budgets usually are bigger than season 1's, where usually sequels go the other way around, where they're spending decreasing amount on the sequel. We're doing the opposite. So we're creating the brand through the viewing, and then marketing the excitement of the new season. And in the movies, it's the same way. Crouching Tiger has its own IP, so it'll be pushed out. People will understand what that is right away. Versus, I think, an unknown film from an unknown discovery talent.
So you could produce sequels to your own movies?
Oh, I hope so, yeah.
In traditional markets, there are a lot of long-running policies regarding windows, when it's time to be, the films are going to be on a theater, then on a premium screen, then on a paid channel. As you intend to go global, how do you plan to work around those policies that are not yet ready to disappear and that might challenge your ambitions going global? I'm talking about France, but this thing could be also set for other markets.
France is particularly onerous, on subscription services. So a movie, if it plays in the theaters, you cannot release it on a subscription service for 36 months. That obviously is not good for anybody. I think it's not good. It doesn't protect the cinema. It actually makes the cinema more irrelevant because more and more people will choose not to release in the cinema, so they don't have the 36-month wait. Because with that comes a huge discount in the television value of that film. So I think that our original films, even if we do a day-and-date theatrical, we won't release in cinema in France. And we don't technically have to follow the chronology because we are not a French company, but we choose to. So if we open that movie in a theater, we would wait the 36 months. That's why we choose not to open in a theater. So I don't know how that helps cinema. But we're following the rules as it is for now. And I think our original films, the best way to kind of change windows, when we started doing original series, one of the innovations that we brought to that was releasing all the episodes at one time. So season 1, episode 1 through 13, all available the same day. Now, no deal with a network would have allowed us to do that. So we had to kind of move up, work with the producers, and release the programming ourselves to change those rules. And that's what we'll do with film as well. And because the windows are very important. I mean, you think about the internet has changed the way we buy books. It's changed the way we buy video games. It's changed the way we buy and consume music. Everything about the way we consume entertainment has been changed by the internet, except for this first window theatrical. So that clearly, you can say that it's going to be the only thing that lasts forever, but I don't think so.
According to you, how will people will watch movies in the future? If you had to imagine this thing in 20 years, for example, according to you, what's your vision?
I like these 20-year predictions because I don't have to be around to account
15, 15 works too.
It's okay with 10.
I think it's going to be an expansion of choice. I think the way, one of my favorite movies last year was Whiplash. Now, that movie was no better. I didn't need it to be bigger. I didn't need it to be louder. I watched it on my beautiful big screen TV at home in 4K. It was beautiful, right? So, but seeing the Avengers in IMAX with rattling seats and everything is a pretty cool experience too. So I think what you'll find out is as time goes by, people will have more and more choice. Look what's happening. Last week, $500 million was made in 24 hours on the Manny Pacquiao-Mayweather fight on pay-per-view. $500 million in one day. I'm sure every studio in Hollywood is looking at that thinking, well, is that a better model than this one? They even look at micro things like The Interview. The Interview was the result of a very unfortunate turn of events, obviously, that I thought Michael Linton and Amy navigated beautifully. And they took this film that could have been a complete financial disaster and orchestrated an alternative model that movie's ultimates will be well over $100 million without any significant theatrical release. 6 months ago, no one would have told you that was possible. So while I agree it was an anomalous film, an anomalous situation, it really does paint a set of possibilities of how movies can be profitable in all kinds of different release windows. And I want to, don't misunderstand, nothing I'm saying and nothing we're doing is meant to be anti-theater or anti-cinema. I love, personally, the experience of going to the theater, going to the cinema. I think it competes beautifully on its own. I have great confidence that if things were day and date, people would still go to the movies. But I do think that people need choice. And people want choice, and if you try to prevent them from choice, it's going to ultimately harm that. So think about all of these initiatives as being very pro-movies. So I think movies will be more profitable, be seen by more people, enjoyed more in the culture if consumers had more choice. It might be that cinemas lose a little bit of that, or it may be that some distributors have to give up some of that. But in total, the movie business will be bigger. More films will get made, more films will get watched, more films will be loved.
The last question before going to the Q&A. There is a big Chinese summit taking place this year in Cannes. You told us that you want to go global. Do you want to go global with China?
I always said China's too big to have an asterisk next to it. So we definitely want to be, China to be part of our global strategy. There's a lot of operating constraints in China that are different from anywhere else in the world. We have never.
But it's not typically an open market.
No, and we don't have any operating partners anywhere else in the world. So that will be a new skill for us too. But we're one that we're open to. We try to figure out, what is the right path to operate in China. Like I said, I think our best first step was for House of Cards. People in China recognize House of Cards as a Netflix show, even though they probably don't know what the word Netflix is or what it means. So when they hear it, when you launch in these territories, the best way I think to launch anywhere in the world is to be wanted, create some desire.
But they see it legally or illegally?
Legally, because it was sold by Sony. Sold it to a Chinese TVOD service,
Yeah, okay.
and it's been seen for numbers from 300 to 500 million times. So I think that it's important that people understand that the quality of the programming comes first, and people want to see that, and they want to have access to all of our great programming, that the product will be very desirable in China. But like I said, we are also aware that there's unique operating models that we've not worked in before. We've not acquired companies, we've not worked with partners before in any of our territories. So, but if that's the cost of doing business in China, we'll figure that out. Mm. Maybe not in the same time frame, but definitely in the same, but definitely on the same trajectory.
Okay, thank you. I think there is a mic in the room for some questions, and if you want to raise your hand, great, thank you.
We have 10 minutes for questions. Yes, microphone.
I'll try it in English. Joël Virstel, chief editor of Satellifax, which is a French daily newsletter about TV mainly. You don't want to release figures about audiences to say on Wednesday night at Prime this will be the ratings of that film. But can you release some figure of audience, global audiences? How many, what percentage of your subscriber did see Orange is the New Black or House of Cards, etc.? Or how many people did see it? Another thing about figures, can you give us an idea about your figures of subscribers? In France, for instance, the New York Times released at the end of last year 500,000 subscribers, which seemed a very huge amount of subscribers compared, for instance, with Canal Play from Canal Plus, which has about the same number of subscribers, but in 5 or 6 years. Can you give us some ideas of the figures in France, for instance?
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you.
I was expecting it.
So, like I said, to audience figures for the shows, I don't know to what end. I don't know what it serves except for just curiosity. I know we live in a world of facts and figures and quick stats and people like that, but the reason that Orange is the New Black and House of Cards are big hits because everyone watches them, because they get written about everywhere in the world and people know that they're part of the culture. So the actual number, while I agree with you, it's good fun for it could be a good tweet. It's about all the value that it would have. And we don't release our subscriber numbers country by country. We have about 20 million international subscribers and continuing to grow. I can't comment on the New York Times estimate.
Are you satisfied with the figures in France and Europe?
Very.
Over question. Maybe.
Good morning, André Lange, European Audiovisual Observatory. we have recently edited for the European Commission a report on mandatory obligation for distributors of TV services, pay TV, provider of VOD services to contribute to the financing of film production in Europe, either by direct investment, either by a mandatory contribution to the financing of the National Film Fund. You are established, I don't know if you are now already in Luxembourg, or well, already in Netherlands or still in Luxembourg, but...
We are EU, yes. EU company, yes.
Yeah, in Netherlands.
Yes.
Okay, but Netherlands does not have this kind of obligation. Netherlands does not have a system where a provider of VOD services are obliged to contribute to the financing of national production.
So we currently follow all national law around taxation, around contribution. If they evolve to include us, then we're happy to follow. But
yes, but you are competing in markets where this kind of system exists.
We also don't...
Please, let me... in 10 countries, a large part of the public policy to support the film is based on this kind of mandatory contribution. Now, as it's already the case in some countries, in France, for example, national broadcaster, national provider of VOD services say to the government, why should we contribute when foreign services are not obliged to contribute? And any government in 5-10 years will be obliged to decrease the mandatory contribution. So are you aware that in 5, 10, 15 years you will destroy the current ecosystem of film production in Europe?
I don't think that's true at all. I think what we're going to do is grow the film ecosystem in Europe. Victor here is laughing because he's heard this debate around Canada for 5 years, where everyone made the same... Now, keep in mind, we don't take any money out of the system either, and we do produce film in country with local talent, local producers. Marco Polo that we filmed with Harvey, we had over 800 people working on Marco Polo from around the world in Malaysia. 100% of it spent in country. Marseille will be filmed with entirely in France, with French producers, with French talent, and we won't take 1 cent.
What's the amount of production?
Can I like to finish too now? And we won't take 1 cent of French tax dollars to produce that show. Our plan is not to basically not produce, not to draw from those funds, not to pay into those funds, because we're creating content for the world, and which creates a great platform for a global access for French storytellers around the world, something that the current system doesn't address at all. So I'm not saying that we will affect it negatively, I'm not saying we'll affect it positively, I'm saying it will become increasingly irrelevant because we'll have a large global footprint and French content will be incredibly valuable. The reason we got so excited about Marseille, we have more than 1 million people who watch French language television in America on Netflix, which gives a great big footprint to make bigger shows, hire more French people.
We've got time two more questions.
Would you mind my partners chiming in
Yeah,
here?
of course.
They would.
Hi, guys.
You asked for it.
First of all, just an answer to the gentleman's question. We took less money. We had other companies want our output deal to go with Ted and the Netflix people because they are visionaries. They also love movies. Look at what they're talking about, making documentaries. I guarantee you the heads of the TV companies, especially in America, and probably most anywhere, are not talking about building the documentary film business. That's what these guys did. The idea that 1 million people in America are watching French language films, that's visionary. I'll give you an idea. The last foreign language movie that was sold to an American network was Z in 1970, okay? I mean, so that's the American networks taking European product and basically saying, we don't want it. These guys have created the marketplace. And for the gentleman who's talking about the government needing money, I hope that the government spends its money on hospitals and children and that the marketplace is so good that his films can be sold to the marketplace and don't need government subsidies. That's what they're doing. creating the marketplace. I came here to defend Ted today because I thought somebody was going to talk about the whole movie theater thing. He goes off on that tangent. He said, I better come as a bodyguard. But I'm even more thrilled where this conversation went and how visionary this company is. Remember, this is a guy who buys those documentaries and cares. This is a guy who buys foreign language movies, foreign language television, and cares. You're not seeing that on anything else. And as far as a wake-up call, every one of these monopolies, whatever, in your country, let's start with TF1, and just to be controversial, and ITV and BBC and everybody else, they've gotten a wake-up call. All of these companies have gotten a wake-up call by what Netflix has done. And you know what? They're all getting better, and their quality is going to improve, and they're going to be big customers for your product. So having the rebel in the room made us all better and stronger. Thank you.
Thank you, Art.
Thank you. Two last questions. Miss?
I just want to talk to the subsidy question that the gentleman behind me raised. I'm from Canada, and Netflix entered the market about 4 years ago, and we had exactly the same discussion. Producers crying that the subsidy system will be destroyed because Canada is very similar, almost identical with the French system. And it hasn't touched anything. The production, the subsidies are the same. The Canadian production hasn't diminished in any way. And the broadcasters who complained that it's unfair competitions have started their own over-the-top services competing with Netflix, so it has had no impact whatsoever. So I don't know how you're coming to your conclusions, because it's not factual, and I think Canada is a good laboratory for what happened.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a question. Thank you. As a Canadian, we love Netflix. I just want to say that. And as a woman, I so appreciate the programming, original programming, written, directed by women. Tina Fey, Jane Fonda starring in a new series, the Mindy Project. I just want to say bravo and thank you for that, because it gives us access to film programs and TV for us. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
My question is, are you open to the idea of launching new voices, female directors, producers that traditional broadcasters have been bypassing?
Yeah, I think if you look at the director mix of our shows, like Orange is the New Black, and it's a mix of veteran feature film directors and some new television directors as well, but absolutely open to it for sure. And I think the best way, my kind of lesson in all these things, I've been at Netflix since 2000, so going on 15 years. And my lesson in all this is that I wanted to be a big kind of crusader for small and independent projects. And I found that the lesson, and that's the best way to do that, is to get big, and then then everything else can draft on it. But you can't really get big on kind of the small discovery in and of itself. But the bigger we can get as an engine, the more that we can draft those voices in with us and then watch them grow.
No, in fact.
Sorry. From a strategical standpoint, and since you seem to be a bit annoyed by the fact that you have to wait 6 months before you can release your films through the 12. 12, indeed. Wouldn't it make more sense at some point to actually invest into buying one of the major film studios, and then you'll do a lot of economies of scale, and your problem will be solved?
Unfortunately, they have long deals with other people already. So all those windows and most of their library are already licensed out. So that would be a generational shift where I think we could build it more efficiently.
Well, in the long term, this would be a long-term strategical decision, obviously.
No, I'm just saying in the same time that we would take us to wait out all those deals, we could build something that I think might be more suited to the future.
Okay, one last question. Miss?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. I have a question in terms of what you pay producers. There's a very well-known subscription service for music, And even though they're providing a flat fee for their audience, they're paying their right holders by click. Would that be an idea for Netflix and the producers too, in terms of not of original series but of licensed projects?
Well, we don't believe that pay-per-click would be, because unfortunately that always works great in success and horrible in failure, right, for the producer. So in other words, we've taken on a lot of the risk of it not working, and the rewards of it working are kind of abstract in that, because the only way that we retain real rewards for it is in retention and acquisition of subscribers, which happens over many years. So in that case, I think by removing the risk of failure, that it works better. And we've tried it both ways from the beginning of our streaming business. So I don't know that, if you want to talk about specifically on the pay-per-click issue, that's why we don't do it in that way.
But you would be open to negotiating that?
No.
Ted, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Should I take those? Yes. Oh, excuse me. I could do that with the 36-month thing in France. I might be doing something about it. I'm very motivated to talk about it. Excellent. Excellent. Pardon, excuse-moi.